After starting to work as an environmental journalist, I found the same structure. The root cause of almost all the environmental problems is disconnection between people and the earth. So how to rediscover and how to re-establish important connection or connectedness is my life theme. This is why I'm very honored and happy and excited to be here. Although as a typical reserved Japanese person, I know I don't look excited, but, but I am. After the great earthquakes, tsunamis, and nuclear power plant accident in 2011, I have seen an increasing waves of three important movements that can be expressed with words starting the letter of D. These three ideas are spreading especially among young people in Japan. The first D is what I call de-ownership, the shift from owning things to sharing things. For example, car dealers in Japan are desperately trying to sell cars to young people, but young people are quite happy with car sharing, saying owning a car isn't cool. The second D is the dematerialization of happiness. Instead of seeking happiness by buying and owning material goods, people find happiness in person-to-person relationships, contact with nature, and being in harmony with themselves. Cable and I and other friends started 1 million People's Candle Night initiative 12 years ago. It is a simple campaign to suggest that people switch off their lights, TVs, and computers for 2 hours at night to enjoy some time by candlelight in any way they want, having dinner, listening to music, taking a bath, etc. We named 1 million peoples, hoping for this level of spread in the future, but it turned out that 6 million people joined our Candle Night initiative in the first year. There are many local Candle Night events. It is a voluntary and participatory campaign where people share alternative ways of spending time for happiness. The third D is demonetization of life, creating happiness in our own lives without being ruled by the monetary economy. One example is what we call the half-farmer, half-X lifestyle. Half-farmer, half-X people pursue farming to grow food, not for sale, but for their family, while spending the rest of their time on their life's mission. Living such a life may decrease your income, but it will increase the time to spend with your family and do what you really want to do. Yoji is a half farmer, half NGO worker, and I know many of you are farm farmer, half something, right? But outside this room, this kind of lifestyle is still a minority, especially in Japan. So why is this D movement important? Why is this conference important? Because we, humanity, are facing the dilemma of growth, as called by Tim Jackson, my colleague and the author of Prosperity Without Growth. Continual economic growth is unsustainable. No need to explain this to you all here. According to the data on ecological footprint, human activities today consume the equivalent of over 1.5 planet Earth. And the other speakers point out, our economic system has become one that generates money by creating credit and money growing exponentially by speculative investment. But the economic system has to allow us to exchange this money, inflated in a virtual world, for real resources from the earth, which doesn't grow at all. So such a system can never be sustainable. On the other hand, today's economies are structured with self-reinforcing feedback loops, in which profits and labor productivity continue to increase. Technology boosts labor productivity, cost reduction from the saved labor leads to greater profit, then to investment, then to further technological development, then to higher labor productivity. The structure of today's economy is designed so that if economic growth is halted, employment will decline, and this could result in social instability. We only have a choice of either expansion or collapse. In trying to reconcile our finite Earth and economic structures that demand infinite economic growth, some people have been proposed the concept of decoupling through technological innovation and development. We see an improvement of intensity, say CO2 emission per unit of sales. But the point here is that even if CO2 emission per unit of sales are improved, increasing sales force energy consumption to increase by a greater amount, resulting in a net increase in CO2 emission. And despite all the good intentions and huge effort, no decoupling has occurred in absolute terms. But let's assume that technological innovations can achieve this decoupling. If economic growth were to continue, CO2 per GDP should come down to zero and even a negative amount. It is not feasible. So, what must be done? This is why we need an economics of happiness. Transformation of economic system is essential, including those of producers and consumers. As you know, the economic system has three main components: goods, people, and money. One approach has to do with the goods, what I call dematerialization of the economy, where material consumer goods are replaced with services. Examples can be found in local and community-based social enterprises, such as local repair and maintenance services, sharing businesses, sports clubs, and libraries. Another approach is regarding people, the labor force. The simplest solution is to decrease working hours. Some countries already have started work share practices. And then money, investment capital. Instead of conventional emphasis on short investment period and high rates of financial returns, now community banks and non-profit banks are investing in natural capital and social assets with a much longer time horizon. These movements represent a shift to focusing more on resilience rather than mere economic efficiency. For short-term efficiency, scale matters, but for resilience, initiatives should be better launched on a practical scale at the local level. Localization matters. And for the consumer side, looking at the psychologist Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs, when we are poor, we need our physical necessities to meet our physiological and safety drives. After we meet them, the upper needs of belonging and esteem don't necessarily require consumer goods. But consumer goods provide what Tim Jackson called symbolic language to secure one's identity and the sense of belonging. This is why we keep buying consumer goods, even at higher stage of this diagram. The 3 Ds are the movement to meet our needs of belonging, esteem, and self-actualization with less physical goods. Philosopher Kate Super points to a growing appetite for alternative hedonism, sources of satisfaction that lie outside the conventional market. A shift toward alternative hedonism could lead to a more ecological, sustainable, and happier life. According to psychologist Tim Kessler, there are two kinds of values people embrace. One is materialistic values, such as financial success and status, and the other is intrinsic values, such as self-acceptance and a sense of belonging in the community. His research shows people with higher intrinsic values are happier than those with materialistic values. Now, the level of happiness we can feel here is backed by psychology. When I went to Bhutan this January as one of the international experts to help the Bhutanese government to come up with the new development paradigm, and I had the honor to have a chat with the Honorable Young and Handsome King at the tea party he hosted. He said that Bhutan's idea of gross national happiness, GNH, is much needed for Bhutanese people as a screening criteria to decide which to pick up and which to go without. Since now Bhutan is opened up to the outside world, and many goods and information are flowing into the country. From his remarks, I got to understand the essence and the real purpose of GNH, which is establishing and honoring our own values, not being shaken by outside forces. And I believe this is also a very important aspect of localization movement, and which contribute to the establishment of the economics of happiness. Thank you.